Peace, peace, world. Thank you once again for subscribing and downloading the Klyph Notes podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. On this episode, I get an opportunity to sit and chop it up with a cat who I haven't talked to on the podcast in a number of years, and since then, he's been busy releasing dope material. We have an opportunity to sit and chop it up just about that. He gives his perspective on the Portland music scene, talk some politics, a little bit of everything. You know how it is. Whenever I get a chance to sit and chop it up with the homie, Rasheed Jamal, on this episode, Klyph Notes Podcast. Support for the Klyph Notes Podcast comes from Acapella Apparel, an idea born from a love of hip-hop, funk, and soul music and its surrounding cultures. With fashion being a huge visual part of the cultures, they've created expressive images to pay homage, invoke nostalgia, and showcase the elements that make up the lifestyle and cultures of these genres. Acapella, apparel for the music lifestyle. For more information, check out acapella.com. That's AKEPELE.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, the show you're about to listen to may contain explicit content. So guess what? You need to put them babies to sleep. This is for grown folks only. So we're not held liable for anything you might be offended by. Thank you for listening.
Yes, yeah. Welcome back to another episode of the Klyph Notes Podcast. Available everywhere you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Everywhere, really. Remember, if you check it out on any of the podcast platforms, but specifically with Apple Podcasts, do your guy a favor, rate, comment, and definitely share the podcast with everybody in your community as we continue to, spread love, for real. I want to take a minute to give a shout out to the folk that I've been rocking with for a while. Libsyn just celebrated 15 years of hosting podcasts. So happy anniversary, Libsyn. Appreciate what y'all do. Definitely glad to be a part of the Libsyn family, for real. If you're thinking about hosting a podcast, I know there's a bunch of options out there, man, but like I said, I've been messing with Libsyn for a while and really appreciate all of the extras that they have, man. So check them out, for real. And then also some shout outs to everybody who's been rocking with us literally all over the planet. Europe rocks with us heavy. Shout out to the folk in Spain, Asia. Russia's still rocking with us. Appreciate that. Brazil's real big on our numbers. So shout out to Brazil. Appreciate y'all for real. Give y'all a little bit of love, a little bit of congratulatory right there, for real. We got a really good one, man. This is a episode that we've been trying to do for a minute, and it's cool to have this cat back on the podcast. Yo, let them know who you are.
Amadeus St. Kofa, a.k.a. Southside Slim.
That's what's up.
Also known as Loney to folks that knew me growing up.
Man, dude got aliases.
Rasheed Jamal, man.
What up, B?
Nothing much, bro. Good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. You know, it's funny. I was talking to somebody just earlier today and about the things that I do, and they were asking me about doing interviews, and they were like, man, how do you prep for your interviews? And I was like, man, most of the folk that I have an opportunity to interview are people who I know, like people who I've been rocking with for a number of years. So that makes it super easy.
Right.
And then just kind
fun,
of
probably.
Yeah, exactly, because it's just a conversation, you know what I'm saying? And then also just like looking at other stuff that people have done, whether it be art that they've released or other interviews that they've done. Some, even though I've known you for like 12 years now.
Yep.
I was going through to look at, just to try to see, because there was some specific stuff I was looking for, and I realized, man, you've been busy. Like, there's a bunch of interviews with you out there.
Yeah.
Which is dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yo, so I one of the things I was going to look back at when the last time you did Klyph Notes was 2014.
Oh, it was 14. I thought it was 15.
Yep, December 2014, man. So coming up on 5 years since we did this.
It was mad cold outside that day. I remember that.
Well, and the crazy thing is that means that you were one of the first interviews that I did.
Yeah.
Because the podcast is 5 years old.
Yep.
It's nuts, bro.
Yeah, man. Like, and you had the equipment. You was like moving it around on some real, just grassroots moving around. Were you doing X-ray at the time?
5 years ago, I think I was probably This was December. I started at X-Ray. I think I may have just started at X-Ray because I've been at X-Ray for 5 years.
Okay.
So I may have just started at X-Ray.
Okay.
But like we talked about it, I'm sure we talked about it on the first episode, and I purposely did not go back and listen to it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sure we talked about it. We started connecting when I was doing Welcome to the Neighborhood radio show on KZME.
Yeah.
So I was there for 5 years.
Over there in Southeast.
Yep. So I was going back to one of the reasons I was going back to look at when we did the last episode was because I was trying to figure out your discography, which is not that easy, bro. I don't know if you know how difficult it is to see all of the stuff that you don't put out. Because I went to iTunes, I went to your Bandcamp, and then I just like Googled it, and some stuff is on one spot, and then it's not on the other spot.
And then there's other stuff where like I had other names that's still on Dat Piff.
Oh, word.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the discography, let's start there.
Okay.
How many joints have you released?
I don't know. I got like different eras of my life because I've been rapping for a long time.
Yeah.
So like, actually, the first time I put out music, I was 15.
Okay.
So nobody's heard that. My cousins lost it. It's gone.
Yeah.
Then when I was in high school, I put out like 5 like projects in high school.
Yeah.
And I still have I'll have my very first project that I ever did.
Yeah.
And like it's at the crib.
Okay.
So it's Underground Celebrity. Then I had another one called Street Mentality 101.
Okay.
Then I had, I don't know, man, it was like a joint I did with my partner Trig. It was called Partners in Crime.
Okay.
And all these joints had like 14 plus songs
Right.
on them. Like we was just making mad songs when I was a teenager. I learned how to engineer early.
Yeah. So were these mixtapes or these over original beats?
It was on original beats.
Okay, word.
Like I had friends that made beats and stuff.
Yeah.
There was like 2 other ones, but those weren't released. Like I guess since I've been an adult and releasing music, at this point I think it's like 6. It's like 6 or 7.
Okay.
But overall in my lifetime that I've actually created, I'm actually somewhere in the 30s.
That's ridiculous,
40s,
yo. That's what's
something
up.
like that.
So I was looking, and when we did the podcast before, then that means you had released My Beautiful Ugly.
Yep.
So that's what introduced me to your music then.
You know what? I just listened to My Beautiful Ugly a couple of days ago, and I almost started crying.
Yeah.
Like I listened to it tripped me out, man. Like I listened to the song I did about my mother, but then I just like I had so many flashbacks of what was going on in my life at the time,
Right.
and like who I am now,
Right.
and you know, a lot of stuff that I wanted to do back then I've done. You know what I'm saying? And it was 7 years ago. But like also just listening to it from like a content, lyrical, beat selection. It's 21 songs, and at the time it was too many songs. But like now I'm happy that I put all 21 of them songs together like that.
Right. Right.
Because like I literally rap the same. Like I sound the same. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now in the news. Like you know, about like sex trafficking.
Yeah.
People are starting to like really put a microscope, you know, magnify that situation.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had a song called Save Me. And I had a part in that song where I said, businessman by day and molested by night, 3-bedroom house, 3 kids and a wife, checking out sex slave that he pays on Skype, middle-aged white man on a first-class flight. And as hard as he tries, she just can't fight. 13 years old with hell for a life, abuse for a father, and rape is his wife. Pray that somebody will save her tonight. And it's like, I was 22. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that was almost 10 years ago. Like, I wrote that in 2010.
Yeah.
And it's like, everything I was rapping about on that album, where I think it kind of threw people off and they didn't understand why I was so adamant about the stuff, because that song saved me. I was screaming all over that song. Like, I was like literally screaming on that song.
Yeah.
And that was like one of my first little forays into my rock and roll side.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, I think people couldn't understand why I was so adamant about this stuff. And now that's what people are talking about.
Right.
Like, it's like dope cats I like to listen to, like Billy Carson. He has quite a few Instagram pages, but he goes under the moniker Forbidden Knowledge. And it's a pretty popular page that people like to go onto, looking at alternate history and alternate versions and interpretations of different things, and looking at stuff that's going on right now that we may not really fully understand. Has been scientifically proven that what we learned in school is not what's really going on in the world and in reality, right? And man, on that album, like at the end of the song, The Distance, I had an acapella where I did a spoken word piece. And I was talking about the tablets of thought. I was talking about quantum mechanics. I was talking about, all these different topics where it's like at the time folks was looking at me like I was this weirdo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But now that's like in. You know what I'm saying? So
but
I really appreciate that project.
Yeah, at that stage of your life, what was or maybe a better question is, who was your influence that made you look at things like that?
I don't know. I think that I was just looking for the truth, and I was just like curious about stuff. So I see something, and it was sparking interest. And I never really been somebody that's into like arguing with somebody, like intellectually debating people or doing stuff like that. I just like to learn.
Yeah.
And I just I kind of get bored, and then I start researching stuff.
Yeah.
And I just go down rabbit holes. And if I find something that seems true to me,
right,
then I dig into that. And then also at the time, I used to have a lot of dreams. And it's weird, man. Like sometimes like I'll write songs or like I'll just think up songs or whatever, and they just pop in my head. And I don't know where they come from. And like a lot of times it's not until I get through recording it that I realize what I was talking about. It's funny, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And back then, nobody knew who I was from, at least out here, nobody knew who I was.
Yeah.
And it really didn't matter. So, like, I've always kind of rapped like ain't nobody paying attention to me.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, it always surprises me whenever I leave the house and somebody, hey, Rasheed, you da-da-da.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I just always kind of, just a little country dude from Arkansas, like I'm, I don't know, I'm my only child, so I'm kind of used to like being by myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, I just had this curiosity, and that kind of has been more of a friend to me, like the music and, kind of this, I wouldn't necessarily call it a quest for knowledge. I don't think it's like a destination I'm trying to reach. It's just like as time goes on, I've always been a curious kind of person.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to connect dots that my imagination leads me to connect. And then it turns out that I had a hunch and, oh, wow, okay, that's actually right. Okay, there's actually a whole library about that.
Yeah.
Let me look into that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
that's what's up, man. After My Beautiful Ugly, you released several other projects. In 2015, Sankofa.
mm-hmm.
Then 2017, Indigo Child.
Mm-hmm.
And then also in 2017, Sankofa reincarnated.
Right.
So talk to me about that. The idea behind. Well, I don't even want to label it. So
right.
you released Indigo Child, and then you released Sankofa Reincarnated. So what is Sankofa Reincarnated?
Well, like there was some songs on there that I felt like they should have just went on Sankofa, and I wasn't gonna put them on a new project because they were from that time period.
Right.
Just like
stuff that you'd written to, or stuff that you'd recorded that you just didn't put on the album.
Stuff that I recorded that didn't make it on there.
Yeah. And
like it was just like. Also at the same time, I'm not trying to discredit myself at all, but I was out of my mind. Like I had surgery on my wrist and got this cyst taken out of my wrist that had been there for like almost like 15 some odd years.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't going down, and it started like constricting my blood flow, so my hands were getting numb. My hand was getting numb and stuff like that. So they went in and took it out. But for some reason they get like the anesthesia and the painkillers they gave me, it gave me like really bad adverse effects.
Yeah.
So like I lost my mind, man, like for like 2 or 3 months, man. Like I like actually had to take Adderall. Like somebody gave me Adderall, and that's what got my mind back on track.
Yeah.
To like, be able to think straight and hold a conversation with somebody. Like I was to the point to where like I would be talking to somebody and forget what I was talking about in the middle of my sentence.
Wow.
And just not functional at all. Like, and it kind of gave me a really good insight into people with mental illnesses more than I already have had in my life. To where it's like, dang, man, this is crazy. Like, I'm really disabled right now. Like, I'm really like, it was a really hard time of my life. Really hard. You know what I'm saying? So when I came out of that, that's kind of why Indigo Child sound like it's all over the place too. Like, I was just pulling for everything to come back to life. That's literally what I was about with Indigo Child. And then I wanted to put it out during the solar eclipse, you know. So then with the Sankofa Reincarnation, like I was listening to songs that should have been on Sankofa because I always have like mad playlists of my music on my computer. And I was like, you know what? I'm back. I'm gonna put this back up here right quick and give people a chance to hear the rest of this other music because like there's a song on it like "Love and Other Drugs" that I wrote about my girl back in 2012.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I had written that song for 22 grams, you know, and really, Sankofa came from, you know, I had all this music on this old school Dell laptop, not laptop, but computer setup, desktop, one of them big old school joints.
Yeah.
And it was like a 2007 XP, and that's what I had done all my work on before that, just at home. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I got the blue screen of death and it died. You know what I mean? And I lost like 500 songs.
Wow, dude.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, dang. But it was weird because, like, my reaction, like, I was sad because my stuff went dead, but at the same time, like, my spirit. You know, let me talk about this right quick because I never really talk about this side of myself. I feel like we have two different consciousness that we walk around with. You know, we have, like, kind of the animal side that's here, and I feel like that's kind of the ego, you know. And then, you know, you have this other thing that's instinctual and is highly intuitive, and it points you towards a higher source of, you know, response rather than just whatever. So, like, it's certain moments where it's like you want to react this way, but your higher self says, or whatever you want to call it, there's something else in you. Like, you can call it your conscience, you can call it your inner teacher, whatever that is. That's like, nah. Sit back and chill. And when that happened, I knew it was gone, so there was no reason to be sad about it. You know what I'm saying? Like when it wouldn't come back on, I went ahead, went to work, came back home. I couldn't get it to turn back on. Damn. So all the you know, emotions I had, I put into. I just went. I found, I think 10 beats I liked a lot, paid for them, and I wrote all of that in 1 week. And then booked some studio time and went in there, and like a lot of stuff on Sankofa is like 1 or 2 takes. Yeah. And like I freestyled half of that shit. Like I just had to get it out. Yeah. And like rebuild my catalog. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a lot of songs like that folks would never hear. Now, luckily, I found out that, you know, I burnt a lot of CDs. So like there's like probably 2 or 3, maybe 2 or 3 projects that people have never heard that I recorded here since I've been here. Yeah. And that, you know, I still got. I go back and listen to it, and it trips me out, like just where my mind was. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because all this stuff that folks talk about now, I mean, that's what I was on, bro. Like, you know, kind of on the underground, what they consider conspiracy theory world, but it's not really theory. Yeah. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff has been proven. Yeah. But stuff that you think you will release? I think I will, you know what I mean? Because I think that it's better that people get to hear it than to just hold on to it, even though it's like mad rough and I just recorded it in my house. Right. But, you know, like, I think it's important to hear some of that stuff. Like, there's this song I did called Pills and Gas Masks back in 2009. Yeah. And they had this sample of Jordan Maxwell talking about, you know, at some point in time they're going to ask about that. And I said, real talk, not fiction. I got a prediction. If you would have just listened, turn on your television. And if you pay attention, there's a war going on and they're saying that we winning. And everybody's, oh man, this is a long time ago. The year 2012 and alien bullshit, man. What they talking about is a call with your description. Name, race, sex, birth, date of birth, religion. You ain't allowed to vote if you don't get it by Christmas and da-da-da-da-da. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like, it was just kind of like this whole, I had an idea that there was going to be some type of card that they would have all your information on, so you could swipe this and there's this whole thing that pops up about everything and stuff you like to buy and all this stuff. And it's like we're moving towards that kind of world right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like my girl at the time was looking at me like I was crazy about, you know what I'm saying? Like throughout my life, I've had a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy for the stuff I be saying, but then it's like years later it be happening.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was just a lot of interesting stuff like that I used to be on, but like I had to find a better way to relate to more people. And so, I mean, I like to believe that things happen in the world for your benefit. Like, I really like to think that things happen for your benefit and not against you. So I think that there was a lot of music that I just would have sat there with for a long time and not moved past.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was just another ringer that had me like, you know what? Ain't none of this stuff promise. It ain't gonna last forever. Like, okay, you put out My Beautiful Ugly, record this, put it out. You know? And that's when I got to the point of like, you know, if I write a song and I like it, I'll perform it before I even record it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To just see how folks feel about it.
Right.
You know? So.
Well, that's one of the things that in my observation that's been very consistent when you do release music is you make music, you put it out, it's out. If you do shows, you perform it, but then you seem to be focusing on more like I've got more to say. Like, yeah, that's out.
Right.
Listen to that, mess with that, but I'm moving on to this because now I got this to say too.
Right. And that's kind of how I create. Cause like probably the only people that's really been in my computer like that is like cats I've like been in my crib or something like that. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, everybody has their own like different idiosyncrasies of the way they do stuff. Mm-hmm. For me, I make a bunch of playlists and I've done this for years. So like I'll have the name of the project first. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like for me like writing a definition, or it's like writing in a journal entry. Yeah. Like, you know, today I'll write a quotation or like I'll come up with a concept or something. So it's like Sankofa. It just popped in my head. Yeah. That's a pretty strong name. What's Sankofa mean? Okay, to look back, to fetch, to bring forward. Okay, so reaching to the past to bring forward something great. Okay, don't forget where you came from. All right, I just write about home. And then everything just came easy. It just poured out. Yeah. Okay. I had a project called Growth that I did. And like I drew, like I used to draw pictures and stuff like that. And then like write a rap next to the picture about how I felt about that picture. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so a lot of times it's stuff like that. So like I'll come up with a name for a project and then I'll just find beats that fit the mood of that. Mm-hmm. And I'll either, you know, kind of meditate on those songs or think about those songs or whatever. And I'll probably have like hooks for this song and I wrote verses for this song and this right here. But then all that stuff that I made, those could be songs on their own. Yeah. But then I'll find something else to where, oh yeah, this hook fits better over here, this verse fits better over here, this is better over here. Yeah. And next thing you know, you got a whole album that kind of came from 7 different projects I was working on. Mm-hmm. But now I finished that, but I still got 7 projects. The other 6 projects over here I can go back and deal with, because for me it's like something that's impossible, and it's like trying to describe a feeling. And in mine, they constantly, not in like an unstable way, but I mean, feelings are fleeting. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? They come and go. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I want to describe this feeling. And then like Messiah Complex, when I finished it, bro, I was so happy. Like I was so happy, man, because it really just fit the way I felt at the time. And the way I feel right now, actually. But then once I give it to the people, it's not mine anymore. You know what I'm saying? It belongs to the world, you know?
But it's interesting because as a fan of music, what you described it's actually something I don't think I'd really given a lot of thought to, which is I'll go back and I'll listen to stuff that I listened to back in the day. So when it comes to hip hop, like I'll go listen to early.
I wanted to ask you that. Like I thought about that this week. Yeah. Like I wanted to ask you, like when you started DJing, like who is your favorite rappers, bro? Like what do you like? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, if anybody listens to any of the stuff that I do, whether it be radio broadcasts or when I do spin, which isn't very often, you get a sense of that. I am a fan of really a certain time, but then even within that, a certain lane of music, specifically when it comes to hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
So people talk about the golden era, but at the end of the day, it comes down to I like music where cats are saying something that I can relate to. So I think about Native Tongue as a whole. So De La, Tribe, Latifah, Leaders of the New School. Prior to that, Run DMC, a lot of cats from New York, Houdini, Fat Boys, LL. Being in the South, huge. Anything that Dungeon Family touched. So Outkast,
right.
Goody Mob. But to me, one of the things that there's a common thread through all that is for the most part, I can relate to a lot of what was being talked about. Even you think about Run DMC, and you could they even presented themselves as being to a certain degree hard,
right?
But they were also they were from Hollis, Queens, which definitely had we can look now, we learn that there were some rough areas in Hollis,
some heavy
Queens,
cats out there.
But it was also suburbia,
right?
And I grew up in the suburbs for the most. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So stuff like that I feel like I could relate to. Now I remember when I first heard a lot of West Coast, specifically NWA and everybody that was connected with NWA. I can't really relate to that, but the production of Dr. Dre, that sense of melody that's constant through all of that, could definitely relate to that. But my question was, when I go back and listen to those things, and sidebar, I was talking to somebody and they were saying, when you ask somebody like, what in your opinion, what's the best era of music? And everybody sort of has that question and their answer to that, and oftentimes it goes back to like when you're a youth. And she said
teenage years.
And she said studies show that because typically the high school years, based on how we develop, is so influential to us, that typically those are the years that people go back to. I go, you know what? For me, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's when I first heard Rakim, when I was in high school.
Right.
But at any rate, my question was, when I go back and listen to these things, it takes me back.
Right.
And you mentioned that with the Beautiful Ugly, which is interesting to me. I never thought about that from the creative process, that you go back and listen to something that you made and it takes you back to where you were when you made that. That's interesting to me.
Because like in my head, it's whack. You know what I'm saying? But then I went back and listened to it. It's like, oh, wow. Like, bro, he was actually getting off the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, because like that was like in the time period before, like I said, wasn't nobody paying attention to the fact that I rap. I just got cool with a lot of people out here during that time period. And I was like, mixing and mingling and kicking with folks. And I got to the point that I stopped telling people I rap. And then other people started telling people that I rap. But they never heard me rap.
Yeah.
And like my partner, Cloudy October, I was like his hype man at the time. And like we was doing different, festivals and stuff. And, like it was just a lot of different stuff going on in my life at the time.
Yeah.
So, when it came out, it got a really great reception. And, I'm reclusive, so I really can't really tell what be going on like that. You know what I'm saying? I just realized that, there was a lot of people that checked that album out in a short amount of time, which was tight. But, like, I do like to go back and listen to my music sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it kind of reminds me, because I tend to, man, I tend to listen to a lot of music, and I give a lot of music a chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's rappers or whether it's just musicians from different genres. Like, I like to listen to. I really enjoy listening. Like, I think I just really enjoy listening to other people express themselves. Because like lately, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and I just really like listening to people talk, especially when they make sense. But I have to remind myself of how I sound. You know what I'm saying? So I can like kind of calm my mind down. Because Royce the 5'9", he did a interview on Rap Radar, and he was talking about how much he used to drink alcohol and how he kind of made mistakes because he drank so much, and how his early years, and really what it showed me was, because right now Royce is, way better than Eminem. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion. And that's not a disrespect to Eminem. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just a fan of, I'm a black person. So like black culture to me means as much to me as mariachi does to Mexican culture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So hip hop is something that's indigenous to us, and we're some of the most kindest, forgiving people on the planet. So we allow everybody from every other culture to come in and make money off of us and all this, and but Royce was saying that, he used to drink so much, and when he finally got sober after about a year or so of being sober, he said it took him time to learn how to write again because everything was coming, like he had so much on his mind because his neurons was firing so much, like he just wanted to rap fast.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been feeling this year. You know what I'm saying? I quit drinking last year. And it's been really not hard to write songs, it's like mad easy to write songs. And like it's kind of it's not challenging, you know what I'm saying? Like it's too easy to write songs. Like it's too easy. Like I just remember the rhyme from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was on the spot. I ain't practiced that, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like I've been kind of feeling the same way, where it's like I don't feel like that. I don't know. It's like I don't have that sense of like I need to pull from a negative feeling in order to get a point across. Because like, I used to have like be brashly militant in the way that I felt about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I really used to read Huey Newton's books. I used to read about Fred Hampton and them. Like I was really into that for real. Not, so into it to the point that like I respect them too much to be on stage pumping the fist or like to make that a part of my brand. Like I really feel that way. My dad is really like that. You know what I'm saying? So like, at the time when I was doing My Beautiful Ugly, a lot of that was like I want to fucking burn the world down and rebuild it, and I want us to make a utopia because human beings can be better than this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of my maturing over the years, it just came from me being able to just calm down and be patient and realize that it's not your job to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's not your job to try to save people or wake people up or whatever you thought you were supposed to be doing, And that's where the title of Messiah Complex comes from.
Which is interesting because as an artist or as a creator,
Mm-hmm.
the what you have put out there for people is going to live on.
Right.
So even those thoughts and those concepts and those ideas, you may not be expressing them in that way now, but they exist for people to check into, which I think that's one of the things that I do love about art.
Right.
Is that it is something that, again, when we think of art history, we get to go back and we get to study that, and we can see what was society like, what potentially drove someone to make that type art, whether it's something that was done out of oppression, whether it was something that was done out of celebration, and
Right.
You've now created this art that you've left for people, and I think that's good. And this is just my opinion.
Right.
For me, I think it's good because the art that you tend to make, I feel, is very dense,
Mm-hmm.
which I appreciate, because
Right.
then that is that thing that I can go back and I can really listen to it. We live in a time right now where I feel like that's not always the case. Oftentimes people are, I want to be very, very careful. I'm not judging, but I think sometimes people are putting stuff out because they need to make noise, right?
Right.
I need people to pay attention to me. And I don't mean that disparagingly, but if I'm trying to grow my brand, I need people to pay attention to me. And we live in a society where people will pay attention to me as long as I'm making noise. But I feel like the art that you make, there's so much depth to it. It's one of those things that you do have to sit. You don't have to, but when you sit with it, you really get spoken to.
We live in a post-Jackass and post-WWE generation. WWF. Now it's WWE.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But like we grew up with WCW and WWF.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, we grew up watching Jackass.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
if you look at social media, there's a lot of people that do Jackass type stuff, you know what I'm saying, in order to get attention.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's interesting to hear like people had a conversation where it's like, who was it? Was it Gilly, man? I think this is, you ever listen to Gilly podcast?
Mm-mm.
$1 billion worth of game, man. Like, my bad for the plug. I wasn't trying to do that. But
No.
they funny, man. That dude was like, I think it was Gilly. It had to be, man. The dude was like, he said now, like, he was like, when I was coming up, you actually had to be able to spit some, or like, you couldn't if you was rapping about it, you couldn't not be living that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, that's like Jay-Z said that, and you know what I'm saying, where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? Everything you rapped about, you did it. Couldn't rap about it if you ain't living. I'm from the other side where other guys don't talk too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, me, man, I'm so steeped in the game, bro. Like, I'm like an encyclopedia for music. You know what I'm saying? I just love this. Like, you know, I'm a hood cat, bro. I really come from like a very dangerous neighborhood. And like the fact that I'm here on a podcast with you right now is like nobody else from Hot Springs is gonna do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the stuff that I've done and people that I've met and done stuff, man, like I got a lot of, like, most of the people that I make music for have died since 2012.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I lost count around 25 or 30. You know what I'm saying? And these are all people who I knew. It's not just like, yeah, man, I had just this many homeboys that, you know, just for the sake of sounded like something special. Like, nah, it's not cool. I know they mamas. I know they kids. I know they brothers and sisters and folks. Like, used to be at their house. Like, we used to play basketball together. We used to play video games and shit. They spend a night at my house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or, you know, at the least, I dated their sister or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I literally had a homeboy I used to date a sister that, you know, got shot by some little nigga.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's way younger than us. That really, anyway, rest in peace, Charles.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, I try to, when I started rapping, I wanted to make music for my homeboys. I said it on Messiah Complex, the song Messiah Complex. Started writing songs, wanted to be like Pac, wanted to leave behind a record in case I got shot. Wanted to infiltrate a body, it did be a plot. That skinny nigga went from hooping to top in the charts. I was literally talking about myself at the age of 16. And like, at 16, I was a skinny dude that was hooping.
Yeah.
I had a girl that lived in Little Rock where like she loved the fact that I rap.
Yeah.
And like I would be at school working on Photoshop, making album covers and stuff. And I made a little album cover and burnt the CD and gave it to her. And she kept it in like a little shoebox. Wanted to infiltrate a body. It did be a plot. I used to sneak in her house all the time when her mama went home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like my homeboy Brett, my homeboy DJ, my homeboys that I talked about on Streetlights. Like, you know, so I was in gifted classes when I was a kid, and in the neighborhood, all my friends was like 2, 3, 4, 5 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm like the skinny little dude kicking with everybody, but like I keep up with them mentally. You know what I'm saying? Because they weren't the best scholastically or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like they mom and stepdad thought I was the same age as them. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, he wasn't trying to be ugly like that, but you know, their stepdad would just say mean shit to him all the time and call him stupid all the time. And they did do a lot of dumb shit. Like we did a lot of dumb shit. We was bad as fuck. But you know, like in the back of my mind, I just this sensitivity that I have, you know what I'm saying? It was just like I would try to make songs to make people feel better because I come from like, you know, my grandma and mama and them, you know, they was in the choir and stuff. And I just always wanted to be inspirational to people. Like from the beginning, that was my original intent, was to inspire people in my neighborhood to want more because, you know, we had friends that was dying and going to jail early.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what Tupac did for me. He inspired me, you know. And you know, that's literally just been my thing, you know. Like I always felt like, you know, I used to make a lot of songs. This a joint called Stand Up that I did back when I was a kid, and I was like, it'll be a surprise and make it to 25. You know what I'm saying? I was really rapping like that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, because I was seeing people dying. I was carrying people's caskets and shit, and you know, it was just one of those things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. It's deep, man. Chopping up with Rasheed Jamal. I'm gonna take a quick minute, man, and you know, we talked about how long we've it's been since we did the podcast. The podcast is 5 years old, so we're celebrating 5 years of doing this. But I got to give
Congratulations, man.
Thanks, man. It's crazy to think that it has become what it's become based on, you know, what it started as. But also somebody else is celebrating 5 years is somebody who's been supporting the podcast, which is Acapella Apparel, and you can check them out at acapella.com. It's apparel for the music lifestyle. And in their celebration of 5 years, they brought back the original Acapella logo design on a T-shirt. But it's a special edition. It's a 5th year anniversary edition. So check them out, Acapella Apparel. It's AKEPELE.com. So support the supporters, y'all. You know what I mean? So your most recent release, we've been talking about it, Messiah Complex, dropped this year, 2019, and it's a really cool project. I think, like all of your projects, as you've just spoken to, they're all related to the life that you've lived, experiences that you've had. This one is, I mean, there's some personal things you touch on this project, like you letting people know some stuff that I know there's some stuff on there that I didn't know. Is that just where you are as a human being, as Rasheed Jamal? Was that did you go into this project thinking, I want to be more transparent or more open? Like,
I tried to do that on this one, I feel like. But I did it on accident. It wasn't like I just like, oh yeah, I want to say this and then this is gonna do this. It was just like, I didn't censor myself. Like I didn't, because we can censor ourselves before we get to that point. Because it's like, it's a lot of shit I never say. That's why I stopped drinking Hennessy. I lost a child. I was 23. No one ever died, but we separate. Life is a traffic jam, and it's like that. It was like I could have changed that to something else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it just made sense, so I just let it ride. And like the song Messiah Complex itself, like I'm 1,000% telling the truth on that song, and I think that's something that I want people to recognize, and like that's why I really was adamant on coming on here and letting you know this. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't exaggerate. You know what I'm saying? Like if I say this is this, like I really am one of them cats that stick to, I'm not about to rap about this shit if I'm not doing it, unless I'm just talking shit. Now, like I got records talking about being in Rolls Royces and shit like that. I ain't got no fucking Rolls Royce. Probably never will have a Rolls Royce. Yeah. I'm not really interested in Rolls Royces like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not really interested in designer stuff and stuff like that. I know how to dress. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just certain stuff on there that like I just felt like, my favorite rappers are cats that come from the neighborhood, they represent black culture, and they not sellouts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Tupac is not the most lyrical rapper, but he had the most impact on people because he was a cultural figure. Nipsey Hussle was just starting to get cold, like Scarface level cold. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, that coward killed him. And he had an impact on black culture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, nobody wants to have an impact on black culture anymore. In fact, they want to limit black culture to what is on the internet, the same way that they used to limit what happens in black culture to television and movies. The same way that they limited what black culture is to minstrel shows and things in the beginning. The music industry and the publishing industry, the music publishing industry was based on printing sheet music for people to play minstrel songs on their pianos at home. That's literally how the music business started. Look at what the fuck we're doing now. Look at what's going on with people. We love to talk about these young rappers like as if they're not kids. They're 18, 19, 20, 21. You out the ghetto. You know what I'm saying? You came from wherever you came from. A lot of these cats they talk like they can't read well. So I know they didn't, man. My little cousin sent me a contract with somebody that was trying to dick him. And I was like, yo, bro, nah, don't sign this. And I didn't say, nah, don't sign this. I broke it down to him. This is what this contract says. Yeah. This is what they're doing. And this is the option period. An option period is this. So they have the unwaivable permission to extend this option. So if you sign this, you're going to be signed till you're 30. And you might not like them by the time you're 22. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they're going to have control of your stuff. So it's like, fortunately, that's my little cousin. So he had somebody to call on that could understand that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Anybody else would have been like, oh, okay, what kind of advance are they going to give you? Oh, man, they're going to give you $50K? Oh, man, you should take that, bro.
Right.
And he going to take that money. He going to spend that money. And then he going to owe them that money.
Right.
And that's what happened to Muddy Waters. You know what I'm saying? That's how rock and roll got taken from Chuck Berry. That's how rock and roll got taken from us. Like, what do you say? Man, that ain't nothing but sped up blues. Rock and roll, that ain't nothing but sped up blues. So I'm not even trying to knock on white rappers, but what do? Rap faster and not make no goddamn sense neither. And I'm not trying to knock them. I'm just saying, like, you know, we use Eminem as like the archetype, but like Eminem got a few songs I like a lot. I like him on Renegade, and the history behind the song Renegade is tight because like the song Renegade on Blueprint. Right before I keep going, slight tangent. Royce actually said that originally it was him and Eminem on that song. Mm-hmm. So Jay-Z was working on Blueprint, hit up Dre and Eminem for some beats. Eminem showed him Renegade without Royce on him. And then he hit up Royce and said, yo, you mind if I take you off the song? Jay-Z wants it. And Royce being a team player, yeah, hell yeah, bro. Go ahead and do that, bro. Yeah, Jay-Z, hell yeah. So Eminem's verses were already on there before he sent it to Jay-Z. Yeah. So Jay-Z just had the two little blank splats and he filled in the verses.
Gotcha.
That song sounds different if you listen to it with that context. But Eminem is dope and he's had some dope stuff. But he be rapping about some bullshit too. Like going back to 7th grade, he rapping about Marshall Mathers LP. For me, I was in the 7th grade.
Yeah.
He rapping about raping his mother, beating his and killing his girlfriend across 4 or 5 different albums. You know, man, like he had that 3 a.m. song where was it 3 a.m.? I don't know, it was some song on the Relapse album where he was rapping about a stepfather anally raping his stepson. I don't want to hear that shit, bro. I'm not finna ride around listening to no fucking pedophilic shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not finna ride around listening to somebody raping his mama. I'm not trying to hear you kill your girlfriend every song, no matter how mad I get at her. That's not some shit niggas do like that. You know what I'm saying? The ones that do, you're weird and you probably need a gunshot to the face.
Well, it's interesting because I saw recently, and I'm gonna butcher it, but in essence, OG1 put something on social media that essentially said we need to guard ourselves of what we're taking in.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at you earlier in the conversation, you mentioned the mental health.
Yeah.
And we know that in our society, it's an area that is very, very underserved. And I think if you look at, I used to say, I was under the impression that we saw so many people here in the city of Portland who were suffering from mental health issues, and you'd see them out in the community, right. Because my understanding was that at one point there was a facility that was closed down where folk were getting the care that they needed. And I may be wrong. This was my understanding of it. That facility was closed, and people who were residents there was no place else for them to go. That was my understanding. That was my thought process. And now the more I think about it, I think about things that you just described. Now, coming up as a child in my family, that was one of the things that was often taught. Really pay attention to what you watch on television. Pay attention to what you listen to. And a lot of that was driven by coming up in a religious family, and I understand that. But I also understand what's really behind that, because regardless of what side you want to take in terms of the extremes, there's no way that you can deny the fact that the things that we consume, whether it's eating, drinking, visual, because think about it. There are many people who say, if I need to get into a certain place mentally, I put on a certain type of song. I want to clean the house. I want to be in this space where I feel like I put on a certain type of music.
I'm going to cut on Anita Baker. I'm going to cut on Commodores.
Exactly.
I'm going to cut on
exactly. I'm going to go into competition. I'm going to put on a certain type of song, right? So those influences don't stop once you turn the music off.
Right.
That's changing the chemistry of your mind. So to that, I absolutely agree, bro.
You know? It's interesting because like I'm not trying to chop rappers down, bro. Because like I really don't have an ego about this. I'm just creative, bro. I'm just an artist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like, you got cats like Logic. Like I hate the fact I listen to a song and the dude's talking about how he want to kill himself because people be talking bad about him all the time. But at the same time, a lot of times when you rapping fast, killing nigga, feeling nigga, drilling nigga, and it's like the most entertaining thing to people in America musically is black men talking about killing each other. I love battle rap, but like I can't just listen to battle rap and listen to these niggas hate each other so bad. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really literally the art of hating on somebody. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I laugh at it because it's funny, and I love talking shit myself. And I'm like, you know, like my sense of humor is off the chain. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like depending on what the day is, I might actually just sit back and watch an hour's worth, 3 hours worth of battle raps because it's just funny. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm with my partners and we just having a good time. But literally, it's a competition about putting each other down that came down from playing the dozens. You know what I'm saying?
But here's the difference, though. Here's the difference. Because I'm old enough that I can speak to it. Mm-hmm. When we would play the dozens, it was a very, very rare situation where people were really getting their feelings. Because at the end of the day, you're playing the dozens with your homies, sitting at your homie's house, and really going in on one another. But you had the understanding that
it was respect,
and there are boundaries. There are certain things you don't do and say. I think that that's gone now.
And you know what? The reason it's like that, I feel. I talked to my lady about this because, you know, and I talked to my close partners about this. In our families, like literally within our blood relations, we don't respect one another within this junk. Yeah. Because we don't respect one another's time and we don't respect one another's feelings and different things like that. Just, I don't care, shit, nigga, whatever, and just go off on each other. Mm-hmm. And then that goes into other situations and informs you on how to do this and that. So reality television, and then reality television stars gaining the perception. Because Hanif, man, he actually sent me an article about, like, I was already aware of people buying their followers and buying their likes and, you know, building this perception of themselves being this celebrity. Mm-hmm. To me, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you only got 3,500 people who actually follow you for real, if you buy 1,000 or 10,000 bots that pay attention to you, still only 3,500 people paying attention to you. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still the same amount of people, no matter what those numbers look like. Nobody cares about what you're doing, bro. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, to me, would I rather have the perception of that and walk around feeling like I got it, or would I rather actually have the real people? But the article that he sent me was basically saying that 60% of internet traffic is actually from bots and automated, either AI or just automated services and background services, and only 40% of traffic on the internet comes from human beings. So a lot of the videos that have mad views and that look like they're the most popping supreme thing ever is actually just a bunch of bots commenting and liking this stuff, and it builds the perception around it so that then when they put the marketing push to put it in front of everybody, oh wow, man, this is a hit, but like nobody remembers this song at 6 months later. Nobody heard. Okay, 500 million people heard this and looked at this, and you got 1 billion streams on Spotify and all this, but nobody remembers your music. That's just weird. Like the time we live in right now, where this has probably been one of the greatest Renaissance periods ever in human history. You know what I'm saying? Probably ever, because you got more people creating stuff, more people finding life hacks on how to do this. You got a lot of people figuring out new technologies. There's super advanced technology that we don't even know that we have. Like, they even came out and said that we live in a binary star system. Did you know that?
I think I just saw I didn't read the article, but I think I just saw a headline recently.
Yeah, you know, like, we in a binary star system since when? You know what I'm saying? So, like, what a Dogon talking about serious, or what they talking about us? You know what I'm saying? Like, and not only is it a binary star system, but that star has planets orbiting around it as well. And then people have been talking about Nibiru and talking about Planet X and all this stuff all this time. And now we're discovering stargates and we're realizing that, you know, there's more oxygen on Mercury than there is on Earth. You can breathe on Mercury. Like, you can actually walk around on Mercury fine. You're not going to catch on fire. There's buildings on Mercury. You can walk around on Venus. There's buildings on Venus. The soil on Mars is better for farming than the soil on Earth. Our circadian rhythm, or the way that we move and function and breathe and stuff, is better suited for Mars than Earth. And it's like, bro, they got us looking crazy right now. Because, you know, this information is coming out right now. And then there's a lot of information about easy ways you can buy huge amounts of land and all this stuff. And, but, what they're doing right now is, I don't know how, I don't know why, and I'm not sure exactly how the psychology behind it functions, but you put out a chicken sandwich and people are killing one another and wrecking their cars and going crazy over that. And then you take that little image that looks like the Boondocks and you broadcast it to the rest of the world, so that then when Byron Allen comes on the Breakfast Club and says, yeah, they're trying to take away everybody's civil rights using this thing right here because they didn't want me to do this. I already won mine. I'm going to be cool. I'm a billionaire. But the rest of y'all civil rights are at stake right now if this goes through the Supreme Court. Now, the problem with that, I'm not even trying to be political, but the problem with that is that when Donald Trump got elected, he was able to appoint a Supreme Court justice because there was a seat that was open. That same dude was under mad scrutiny because he had charges that he raped somebody in college. They put him in there. They did him that favor. He owes them a favor. How do you think he's going to vote? But we worried about chicken sandwiches. We worried about, still, look at the way they try to make us look. I didn't even watch the Harriet Tubman movie. I don't watch slave movies like that. Like, there's so much information that's letting us know, bro, we were actually indigenous to this country. Like, we were here already. The whole world knows that we're from here. Yes, people from Africa. My grandma told me that we was Indians. And, like, I got pictures of her, and I got pictures of her mama, and I seen her birth certificate, and I did the research. And, yeah, bro, I'm Cherokee, I'm Blackfoot. You know what I'm saying? It was, honestly, there was a lot of people that were shipped to Europe and then shipped to Africa. That's why Liberia is a place. They sent people that they freed from indentured servitude and sent them to Africa so that they didn't start fights. It's a reason they're scared of us. But, that's the reason for Sunday school and these different things. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that, like, cats really can't really get across because, like, they don't want to hear from us. They really don't appreciate us. They don't care about us. And if they did, I wouldn't have to fight so hard to have a venue here. You know what I'm saying? Like, just have a space to where we can collectively come together. Honestly, the only spot here in Portland that's been consistently good with the black audience, with black people, with rappers, with hip hop, because hip hop is code word for black here, is Kelly's Olympian. Kelly's Olympian, and I would say White Eagle. You know what I'm saying? The rest of them, you're going to get fucked with at the door. You know what I'm saying? Like, police show up and shut shit down. And Kelly's is the only spot that's consistently just continue to rock with hip hop. But they it's like they cut their capacity down every year. And it's like, we really had to, like, be under all this media scrutiny and national, and all that was them sending a message out to skilled professionals that, yo, we don't fuck with hip hop here, and there's a whole development plan to move all these people and migrate them to another side of town further east. So you're not ever going to see them anyway. And then those people moved here, and then they started building all these apartment complexes so that, Portland can go from a tier 3 to a tier 2 city. You know what I'm saying? And that, coming from a black person, that sounds political, but no, that's what is happening, and that's what the situation is. When I look at Kanye West, I feel like he's, it's crazy that he ended up being the puppet that gets used against everybody. You know what I'm saying? And, like, not that I really, like, look at him as, like, important to me,
Yeah.
but, like, I see other people looking at him as if, oh man, I just adore this man. He's just so right about everything. And it's like, to use gospel music as a way to continue to be reckless is crazy to me. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, but Rasheed, and this is just my opinion, to me, it goes back to the statement I was making earlier, there was a time where there were just certain things that were just
off limits.
Yeah. And that doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't.
I think we would see it in just the way, and you mentioned it, the way that we would treat one another, right?
Yeah.
Just having respect for human life. That's gone, right? And then, people may act out of pocket, but when I'm going to grandma's house, but now you see elderly people being abused.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is nothing that's off limits anymore. And so none of it surprises me anymore. But I think what we have done as a society is that we have allowed ourselves to be conditioned to put somebody on a pedestal and then worship that somebody.
Yeah.
Whether that's a political leader, whether it's a leader in entertainment, a leader in education, whatever it is, it's not just about, oh, that person has some information and I can learn from and better myself as a human being. It goes beyond that. Right. I worship that person. So that if somebody does or says something against them, then I have a problem with you.
Right.
And we have literally become sheep because we don't think for ourselves.
Hey, yo, you remember my cover art from Glory Glory?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
man. It's conversations with you are always deep, which I think are valuable and important. And again, it speaks. It also shows up in your art, in the art that you make. I think that. I know you made the statement that you realize that it's not your job to teach or educate or convince, and I talk to artists that I like, and that is a common sentiment, and I don't want to put my opinion on anyone else, but I can't help but think that some of that must just come from a certain level of frustration when you feel like that it's not received. But I, again, want to say I so appreciate the fact that art is out there, that message is out there for people to go back and listen to. And just like people celebrate so many people after they are gone, I often say, man, give people their flowers while they're alive to smell them. And you can do that in different
really
ways.
Appreciate it, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Support artists. If you see an artist put out some music, buy it. If you see that they're performing at a local venue, go and support them live. And if the art that they're making, give it an opportunity. It's just like Rasheed said, like he gives music an opportunity. He gives art an opportunity. Do that. See if there's something in there that may resonate with you. And one of the great things about the society that we live in right now is that you can reach out and you can have conversations and dialogue with folk.
Right.
You are on. Go ahead.
We see a lot of. So like, I feel like a lot of the disappointment, kind of just to piggyback off what you just said,
yeah,
that I see is that I've worked really hard to keep my imagination. You know what I'm saying? I read a study somewhere where like they followed a group of kids up until adulthood they found a way to measure somebody's imagination. And like up to the age 7, like at the age of 7, that's like where your height of your imagination is, right, until society starts to kind of come in on you and get you to get real, quote unquote.
Right.
So it was like something like 98% of the kids had a super active imagination.
Right.
So then by the age 12, that had dropped to like 75%. So then by the age of 17, that dropped to like 60%. By the age of 19, it was down to like 40%.
Yeah.
By the age of 25, it was down to like 15 to 20. And then by the age of 30, it was like 4 or 5% of people still had that imagination,
right,
because they had pretty much been socialized out of them.
Right.
And as artists, we work with our imaginations. You know what I'm saying? Like, we may not see it that way, but it's our imagination.
Yeah.
So, like, when you grow up and you see yourself in a certain type of way, or you have these different little avatars that you look at, like Batman comes in and saves the day. Superman swoops in out of nowhere. Goku is eventually going to kick their ass. We're looking at a world where the bad guys seem to continuously win, and people's willpower is bending towards, well, fuck, I might as well be this too. You know what I'm saying? And it's probably a lot of stuff that I can't really say in this medium. We don't have enough time. But really the disappointment, I think, comes from the fact that you have to really attune yourself in a certain type of way if you can. And that comes from everything you mentioned earlier. You know, I don't watch this. I don't eat this type of stuff. I don't drink this type of stuff. I try not to smoke this type of shit. I don't hang around these kind of people. So you have to attune yourself. And a lot of times to do that, you got to change your environment. And a lot of times, if you're so steeped in that environment, you don't even realize that something is wrong in the first place.
Right.
So then you see bad stuff happening, and you just feel like that's just part of life.
Right.
But like that bad stuff happening has gone from drugs and violence to people continuously coming up missing. People, little kids being sex trafficked, women being sex trafficked, men being sex trafficked, people coming up missing. You know what I'm saying? Or you see certain special interest groups who take offense at everything, but they never call themselves to the carpet whenever they overstep when they overstep. Right. Or when they ignore people from within that same group who happen to be black and poor. I'll use you as a figurehead, but I'm not going to actually help the people out who can do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And, you know, it just kind of goes to show, you know, what's going on right now. Because there's a new minority. You know what I'm saying? It's always been about, you know, you can say it how you want, y'all can feel how you want to feel, but it's really always been about black men, women, and children being at the bottom of the barrel. So if you add us onto the coalition of everybody like that, shake everybody up in the pot, and just shake it all up and let's mix everybody up, the densest stuff is going to fall to the bottom.
No doubt. No doubt. There's definitely truth to that.
And it's like, that's the world we're living in right now. And like, it's not fair to us. And at some point, we're at the point right now, because I'm saying it on this podcast situation so whoever can hear it, we're at the point right now where we really have to gather together. There's a reason they burnt down Black Wall Street. There's a reason they burnt down that community in Rosewood. There's a reason they burnt down that little town Pocahontas. It's a reason why an all-black town was called Pocahontas. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason that during the time of segregation, you had all these people owning banks and owning insurance companies and churches getting burnt down. Like, these were places where people gathered and they put their minds together and they figured out how to map out the community and how to move forward. So when you destroy people's leaders, when you destroy people's places of commerce, when you destroy people's places of gatherings, when you destroy people's places of spiritual congregation, and then you turn around and don't give them insurance money afterwards, you don't give them any rest. There's no reparation for that behind that. You know, no nothing reparation to repair the damages of what happened. You know, it leaves people lost and it leaves people delusional, and then families lose fathers, and mama has to work harder than everybody else. So now nobody's there and there's no order in the home. So now everybody got to figure something out. And it's like, we've been living with that for a long time, and they want to make us think that that's not important. And it is.
Yeah.
They want us to believe that hip hop should be dumb shit, and it shouldn't be, because it's not supposed to be. Like, we're not stupid people. You know what I'm saying?
And that's where I often say, then it's up to us, as whether it's us as curators or us who are creators, it's up to us to put the focus on the intellect, because there's so much more to it. And I understand people talk about using art of all type as escape from the harshness, the harsh realities. People say, I don't always want to be preached to, and I get that. But
hip hop started out as a party. It's about partying. But like, at the same time, you got cats that's really there. Like, then really from there. They didn't get it off the internet. They didn't learn it from Vlad. They didn't learn it from, listen, bro, I've never heard so many white boys making documentaries about black culture in my life.
But you know, we I think the thing to remember, though, we talk about hip hop.
I'm a dude from Arkansas, so like, I look at shit different. You know what I'm saying?
Oftentimes we encapsulate, or we say hip hop, and we're really talking about rap.
Yeah.
But I think if we remember, a part of hip hop is the dance.
Yep.
Now you remember where b-boying came from.
Having fun.
B-boying was not about that, though.
Nope.
Remember that was about, we got these groups of individuals. Let's flip it. Instead of fighting with knives and bats and chains, let's develop this other form of battle. That's where that came from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
and you had to be on point while you was there, because you still might get into a fight.
Absolutely. And these lessons, I think, are important. We're recording this in November. November is the month that we celebrate this art form of hip hop. So,
oh man, that's good time.
You know what I'm saying? Bro, like I said, always great conversations.
Yeah, man.
I
really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, bro. Let people know where they can go and grab the album.
I would prefer that you go to www.rasheedjamal.com.
There it is.
At some point, I'm about to read a book by Jared Lanier 10 arguments as to why you should delete your social media. And I feel like when I do that, I'm going to do that. So www.rasheedjamal.com. Right now at It's Rasheed Jamal on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And you can find my album on all streaming platforms.
There it is, man. Go and support this cat, man. The latest project is dope. It's called Messiah Complex. And you heard a lot about what went into the making of that and what's behind it. But once again, man, support good people who are doing good things, making great, great art. Appreciate you, Cat, for real, for real.
Yo, I appreciate you, brother.
No doubt,
100%.
no doubt. A couple shout outs real quick, man. Gotta show love to X-Ray FM for continuing to be gracious hosts of the recording of the Klyph Notes podcast. Check out X-Ray FM everywhere, man. There's an app. If you rock with an iPhone or Android phone, you can download the X-Ray FM app. Not only will you get an opportunity to check out shows on X-Ray, but also our partner radio station, The Numbers, and then also the X-Ray FM Podcast Network, which is a place that you can find this podcast. The Klyph Notes podcast is available on the X-Ray FM Podcast Network. Also available everywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all of that. So when you check it out, be sure to rate and comment. It goes a long way in letting me know that you're rocking with me. If you have questions or comments or suggestions for guests, you can hit me up at klyphnotes@gmail.com. It's KLYPH notes at gmail.com. Also, I got to give another shout out to folk who support us in a very tangible way and have for a while. Shout out to the folk over at Acapella Apparel. It's clothing for the music lifestyle. It's Acapella, AKEPELE.com. Last but definitely not least, big ups to the homie Theory Has It for creating the official theme song for the Klyph Notes podcast. He just released a project with Crumb. Here's Mud in Your Eye. By the time this drops, his new project will also be out where he's rapping finally. Right. It's a joint called I Love It Down Here. So big ups to the homie Theory Has It. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for rocking with us, man. God bless you till we have an opportunity to do it again. Peace.